I'm Alex Parker. I'm 32 years old, and at my own engagement party, my father slapped me across the face in front of 100 guests. Why? Because I refused to give my reckless brother my entire $60,000 wedding fund. Before I tell you how that one slap led to an unbelievable corporate battle that cost my father his entire company, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. It was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. The Silver Oak restaurant shimmered. Soft piano music drifted through the air, mingling with the low hum of conversation and laughter. My fiancée, Emma, stood beside me, her hand in mine, her radiant smile capable of lighting up the entire city. We'd worked so hard for this, for everything. I'd spent years advancing my career as a graphic designer at Horizon Creative, saving every spare dollar, planning for a future I could be proud of, a future with her. Our friends and family were all there. My best man, Jared, was all ready. A few drinks in, ready to tell some embarrassing story from our college days. Emma's family, the Chens, had welcomed me with open arms from day one. Her father, Dr. Chen, a man I respected immensely, had just given a toast that brought tears to my eyes. Even my old mentor from college, Professor Williams, had driven 3 hours to be there. The room was filled with love, well, almost. At a table near the front sat my family. My father, Richard, and my mother, Diana, their faces tight and unsmiling. Next to them, my younger brother, Marcus, was slouched in his chair, endlessly scrolling through his phone, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. That was Marcus for you, while I was working tirelessly juggling studies and jobs for scholarships. He was dropping out of college to become a crypto millionaire, a venture that spectacularly failed, costing my parents a fortune. But he was, and always had been, the golden child. The night was perfect until my father stood up. He tapped his glass with a fork, the sharp chime silencing the warm chatter. "A quick word," he announced, a strange, fixed smile plastered on his face. The room fell silent. He gave a short, generic congratulations, his eyes barely meeting mine. Then his tone shifted, turned cold, hard, and public. "I also have an important family announcement," he said, his voice booming with authority. "After careful consideration, Diana and I have decided that Alex's $60,000 wedding fund will be given to his brother Marcus." A collective gasp stole the air from the room. I felt Emma's hand tighten around mine. It had to be a joke, a sick, cruel joke. "Dad, that's not funny," I said, my voice trembling slightly. His eyes narrowed. "This isn't a joke. Your brother needs it more than you do." I stood up. My chair scraped back against the floor. "No, that money is legally mine. I saved it. We planned our wedding, our future, with that money." "Don't be so selfish, Alex," my mother chimed in, her voice sharp. The argument exploded. From there, voices were raised, harsh words were exchanged across the elegant dining room. And then it happened. As I stood my ground, my final no hanging in the air, my father stepped forward. The sound of his hand striking my face resonated like a gunshot. I stumbled back, my cheek burning, but the shock was colder and deeper than any physical pain. The room froze. Emma screamed my name, and in that ringing silence, I looked my father dead in the eye. My voice was quiet, dangerously calm. "You're about to get a surprise you'll never forget." He just scoffed, his chest puffed out, a monarch. In his domain, but then the glass doors of the restaurant swung open. 2 uniformed police officers walked in, their eyes scanning the room. My father's smirk faltered. He looked from the police to me, a flicker of confusion in his eyes. He still didn't get it. He looked at me with utter disdain. His expression, not one of shock or fear, but of smug assurance, as if I was the one who had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He had no idea that he wasn't just looking at his son. He was looking at the man who would bring his entire world crashing down. To understand why a father would hit his own son in a room full of people, you have to understand the years leading up to that slap. You have to understand the foundation of our family, which wasn't built on love, but on a rigged system of favoritism that had been corroding us for decades. Let's rewind just a few hours from that moment before the shouting and the sirens. The evening at the Silver Oak had been a dream, Emma and I had walked in, and the sight of all those faces, all those people who genuinely cared for us, it was overwhelming in the most wonderful way. Emma was my steadfast support. We'd met at Horizon Creative 4 years ago. She was a brilliant, sharp, and witty marketing strategist. We connected instantly. We weren't just a couple. We were a team. We spent our weekends hiking in the mountains, sketching out designs for our dream home, and making detailed financial plans on our laptop at a small kitchen table. We were meticulously building a life, each step earned. My best friend, Jared, was there already commanding attention at the bar. We'd been through everything together since we were freshmen in college. He was the one who dragged me out of the library to go to parties, and I was the one who made sure he actually studied for his finals. And we were business partners on the side, taking on freelance projects together. He knew my family's situation better than anyone. He'd seen the casual disregard, the blatant favoritism firsthand. "You ready for this, man?" he'd asked, clapping me on the shoulder as I walked in. "Going to be a long night of speeches. As long as you keep yours under 10 minutes and don't mention the noodle incident of 2012, we're good," I joked. He'd laughed. No promises. Then there were the Chens. Dr. and Mrs. Chen treated me like the son they never had. Dr. Chen, a respected surgeon, had a firm handshake and a warm smile. When I'd asked for his blessing to marry Emma, he hadn't interrogated me about my finances or my family tree. He'd simply said, "Alex, I've seen how you look at my daughter. I've seen how you both support each other. That's all a father can ask for." Their acceptance was a balm on a wound I rarely acknowledged. My mentor, Professor Williams, was also there. He was the one who saw potential in a nervous, reserved student in his intro to design class. He'd helped me get my first internship, wrote my letter of recommendation for Horizon, and had been a constant guide ever since. Seeing him there, looking proud, meant the world to me. These people, Lima, Jared, the Chens, Professor Williams, they were my real family. The family I had built. And then there was the family I was born into. They arrived late, of course. My father, Richard, strode in as if he owned the venue, offering curt nods to people he didn't know. My mother, Diana, followed, a strained smile on her face as she scanned the room, likely critiquing the floral arrangements. Trailing behind them was Marcus. To understand Marcus, you just need one quick story. I remember one summer during college I was working 60 hours a week in a hot, greasy restaurant kitchen, the stench of burnt oil clinging to my clothes, just to afford my textbooks for the fall semester. One evening, I called home, exhausted, and my mom answered, her voice panicked. "Alex, thank God you called. It's Marcus. What happened? Is he okay?" I asked, my heart pounding. He's fine, she'd said casually. "It's just, he had a little trouble. Invested in this new cryptocurrency, said it was a sure thing. Well, he lost all of it, and the money we gave him for his car payment." I closed my eyes. Leaning against the grimy wall of the kitchen. "How much, Mom?" "Just a few thousand. Your father already took care of it. The point is, he's feeling very down. I think you should call him. Uplift his spirits." I remember hanging up the phone, my hands trembling with an inexpressible rage. I had $112 in my bank account. My brother had just squandered thousands on a whim, and I was the one who was supposed to make him feel better. That was the dynamic. I was the responsible one, the self-sufficient one, so I was taken advantage of. Marcus was the charming, impulsive one, a euphemism for reckless and irresponsible, so he always needed rescuing. He was the project, I was just there. Even my own uncle, my dad's brother, Robert, saw it. Uncle Robert was the opposite of my dad. He was a quiet accountant who taught me how to budget, how to open my first savings account, how to invest in a simple index fund. He valued hard work and integrity above all else. He'd pull me aside at family gatherings. "Don't let them get to you, kid," he'd say. "You just keep building your own life. That's the only thing you can control." So, back at the party, when my father stood up, that entire history was festering just below the surface. His toast was short and hollow, and then he dropped the bomb. Alex's $60,000 wedding fund will be given to his brother, Marcus. The silence was deafening. I looked at Emma, her face pale with shock. I looked at Marcus, who was now looking up from his phone, a smug, entitled smirk spreading across his face. He knew this was coming. This was a premeditated ambush. "Dad, that's not funny," I managed to say, my voice tight. I was attempting to de-escalate, to offer him an escape, a chance to claim it was a misguided joke. "This isn't a joke," my father repeated, his voice like steel. "Your brother is getting married in a few months. He and his fiancée, Vanessa, are just starting out. They need the money more than you do. You and Emma have good jobs." I stood up slowly. Every eye in the room was on me. "Dad, that money is rightfully mine. It's in my name. It was transferred to me on my 21st birthday. We're using it for our wedding and for a down payment on a house." My mother jumped in. "Don't be so selfish, Alex. Marcus is your brother. Family is supposed to help family. You've always had more. I've always worked more." The words burst from me before I could stop them. I worked through college. I saved. I planned. Marcus blew his entire fund on dubious schemes and a luxury car. "This isn't about need, it's about responsibility. He's trying to build a business," Diana snapped, her voice rising to a piercing pitch. "What business? Another crypto scam?" I shot back. That's when it happened. My father, his face flushed a deep, angry red, took 2 quick steps toward me. I saw it coming, but I couldn't believe it would actually happen. Not here, not now. The slap was loud and sharp. My head snapped sideways. For a second, there was just a ringing in my ears and a sharp sting on my cheek. The entire room seemed to freeze in a collective disbelief, then chaos. Emma screamed my name and rushed to my side, putting herself between me and my father. Jared was on his feet, his face stormy.
Dr. Chen looked horrified.
I saw Emma's sister, Olivia, discreetly raise her phone, her face somber. She was recording. It was in that moment, as I straightened up and met my father's furious gaze, that something inside me shattered, or perhaps it was finally forged into something unyielding. The years of suppressing my anger, accepting injustice, striving to be the good son had all vanished. Before the police arrived, as the weight of what just happened settled over the room, my Uncle Robert quickly came over. He put a hand on my shoulder, his face etched with worry. He pulled me slightly away from the scene. "Alex, listen to me," he whispered, his voice urgent. "He's your father. What he did was wrong, terribly wrong. But think about what you're doing. Don't make a decision in anger, as this will shatter the family forever. Are you sure there isn't another way?" I looked at my uncle, a man I loved and respected. I saw the genuine conflict in his eyes. He was from a generation where you didn't expose your private affairs, you kept the peace no matter the cost. For a split second I hesitated. The weight of his words, of tradition, of the word family, pressed down on me. Was he right? Was I about to detonate a bomb that could never be disarmed? I looked past him at my father, who was now arguing with a restaurant manager, displaying no remorse, only indignation. I looked at my mother, who was dabbing her eyes with a napkin, playing the aggrieved party. I looked at Marcus, who was watching me with a look of pure, triumphant hatred, as if I was the one who had wronged him. And then I looked at Emma, who was standing firm, her eyes ablaze with protective fire, ready to go to war for me. The choice became clear. My old family was a sinking ship, burdened by ego and entitlement. My new family was standing right in front of me. I turned back to my uncle. "I appreciate you, Uncle Robert, but they tore this family apart a long time ago. I'm just refusing to sink with them." When the police officer, a calm, professional man named Officer Rodriguez, approached me and asked what happened, my voice was steady. I told him everything. The waiter who had called 911 gave his statement. Olivia offered her video evidence. Officer Rodriguez then turned to me. "Sir, your father claims this is just a family dispute. It's up to you. Do you want to press charges?" Every fiber of my being, every lesson about preserving peace, screamed at me to say no, to let it go, to just walk away. But I thought about the years of being second best. I thought about the casual cruelty. I thought about the future with Emma that they had just tried to undermine. I met the officer's gaze. "Yes," I said, my voice clear and strong. Do. That one word was the sound of a door irrevocably closing on my past. I just didn't realize at the time that it was also the sound of a war commencing. The moment the handcuffs clicked around my father's wrists, a strange, surreal calm settled upon the scene. The bustling, elegant restaurant transformed into a hushed stage. My father, Richard Parker, a man who built his entire identity on control and public image, was being escorted out of his son's engagement party by the police. He didn't look scared or remorseful. He looked indignant. As they led him past our table, his eyes locked onto mine. And the look he gave me wasn't one of a father shamed, but of a monarch betrayed. It was a look that promised retribution. My mother followed behind him, a torrent of dramatic sobs and accusations. "How could you do this to your own father?" she wailed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "After everything we've done for you?" Marcus just stood there, his fists clenched, his face a mask of utter hatred. He looked at me like I was a serpent he'd found in his bed. In his mind, my father's public humiliation was solely my fault. My refusal to be exploited was the ultimate transgression. The party was, of course, over. People left in hushed, awkward departures, unsure of what to say. The Chens were incredible. Dr. Chen put a firm hand on my shoulder. "We are with you, Alex. 100%. Don't you doubt that for a second." Professor Williams simply nodded at me, a look of grim approval in his eyes. Jared stayed to help us deal with the restaurant management, smoothing things over with his easy charm even in the midst of a crisis. And Imoshe never left my side. She was my anchor in the swirling maelstrom. Later that night, back at our apartment, the adrenaline faded, and the full weight of my actions crashed down. The apartment felt too quiet. The congratulatory cards and gifts on the table seemed to mock us. I sank onto the couch, put my head in my hands, and for the first time, the strength I'd shown at the restaurant crumbled. "Emma, what did I just do?" My voice was muffled by my hands. "He's my dad. I had my own father arrested." She came and sat beside me, wrapping her arms around me. She didn't offer empty reassurances. She just held me. Keep reliving it. In my mind, I whispered, my throat tight. Was there another way? Could I have just walked away? Uncle Robert told me I was tearing the family apart. Emma pulled back and made me look at her. Her eyes were fierce. "Alex, listen to me. Didn't do this. A family isn't a suicide pact where one must immolate themselves to keep others warm. They have been hurting you for years. Tonight they did it in public, and you finally said enough. You didn't throw the first punch, Alex. You just decided not to get knocked out." Her words cut through the fog of guilt and doubt. She was right. This wasn't just about the money. It was about the slap. The slap was a message. You are our property, and we can do whatever we want to you. My decision to press charges was my message back. No, you can't. But I had gravely underestimated my family's capacity for reprisal. I thought the arrest would be a wake-up call, a moment of stark clarity for them. I was wrong. It was a declaration of war, and they were about to launch their first counteroffensive. About a week later, I got a call at work. It was from my boss, David. He was the head of our department at Horizon Creative, a decent, by-the-book kind of guy. Sounded uncomfortable. "Alex, can you pop by my office for a minute?" I walked in and he closed the door behind me, which was never a good sign. He was holding a thick, professional-looking envelope. I received this letter today," he said, his gaze averted. "It's from an attorney representing your father." My blood ran cold. "What is it?" He pushed it across the desk. I picked it up. It was on the letterhead of an expensive law firm. I started to read, and my stomach lurched. It wasn't a lawsuit demanding the $60,000. It was far more insidious, far more ingenious in its cruelty. It was a formal complaint addressed to the leadership of Horizon Creative. The letter was a masterpiece of distorted narratives painting me as an unstable, aggressive, and vindictive son. It mentioned the public confrontation and framed my decision to call the police, not as a response to an assault, but as a calculated act of elder abuse and public defamation designed to humiliate my father. It subtly implied that my erratic behavior and poor judgment in personal matters It's made me a potential liability in a professional environment that valued stability and teamwork. They were attacking my livelihood. They were attempting to poison my reputation to render me unemployable. I felt the blood drained from my face. These are all lies. David sighed. I know it seems that way, Alex, and for the record, your work here has always been excellent. But you have to understand our position. We have clients. We have a corporate image to maintain. A situation like this, it's messy. Just be careful. So the message was clear. You're on precarious ground. The letter was just the beginning. The next front in their war was social media. Marcus and his fiancée Vanessa launched a full-blown smear campaign. They posted vague yet damaging posts about family betrayal and the pain of being stabbed in the back by those you should trust. They didn't use my name, but everyone in our circle knew who they were talking about. Then it got worse. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years called, her voice laced with misplaced sympathy. Alex, I'm so sorry to hear that Emma cheated on you and the wedding is off. Your mom told me if you need anything, just let me know. I was rendered speechless. What? That's not true. We're still getting married. But the lie was already out there. Someone, likely Marcus, had created fake emails pretending to be me and sent them to distant relatives and old family friends, announcing that the wedding was canceled due to Emma's infidelity. He even circulated a crudely photoshopped picture of Emma with a random man, attempting to imply she was on a date. It was a vile, desperate attempt to isolate us, to turn our own support system against us. The pressure mounted at work. Whispers followed me. Eyes tracked me in the hallway. A major project I was slated to lead was quietly reassigned to a colleague. Emma was getting stressed too. Her own parents, while supportive of me, were starting to get worried. Calls from their friends. The venom was spreading. This was their strategy. They couldn't beat me legally on the money, so they were trying to break me mentally. They wanted to make my life so miserable that I would drop the charges against my father just to end it all. One night I was sitting in front of my computer, staring at another hateful comment on Marcus's Facebook page, feeling completely helpless. Jared came over with a six-pack of beer and saw the look on my face. Don't let them win, man, he said, his voice firm. This is what they want. They want you to feel alone and overwhelmed. It's working, I admitted, my voice low. They're attacking Emma. They're attacking my job. What am I supposed to do? Jared pulled up a chair, his expression turned serious. We don't get overwhelmed. We get smart. That fake email? There are ways to trace that. It's not easy, but it's possible. My cousin works in IT security. Let me make a call. Faint. A spark of hope ignited within me. For weeks I had been on the defensive, merely reacting to their assaults. Now, for the first time, I saw a path to fighting back. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. They'd brought Emma into this. They had threatened our future. My despair curdled into cold, hard resolve. They wanted a war. Fine, they were about to get one. But I wasn't going to fight it on their terms, with lies and drama. I was going to fight it with the one thing they never saw coming, the unvarnished truth. The decision to fight back was like a switch flipping in my mind. The fear and helplessness that had been gnawing at me for weeks were replaced by a sharp, focused anger. It wasn't a hot, impulsive anger like my father's, but a cold, methodical one. They had pushed me into a corner. Now, I was going to fight my way out. Jared was true to his word. His cousin, a tech expert, gave us some pointers. Wasn't it as simple as clicking a button, he warned us. Tracing a spoofed email designed to conceal its origin was a nightmare. But Marcus, for all his scheming, was lazy. He wasn't a master hacker. He was just a spoiled brat with a Wi-Fi connection. He'd likely made mistakes. So we started toiling. We spent our evenings not planning our wedding, but poring over email headers, learning about IP addresses and server logs. It was tedious, frustrating work. Emma would bring us coffee, her face a mix of worry and resolve. She was our researcher, scouring Marcus's social media, cross-referencing post times and dates with the fake email timestamps. At the same time, I knew we needed legal help, but we couldn't afford the kind of expensive lawyers my father had on retainer. The freelance money Jared and I made was supposed to be for our business, not for fending off my family. Then Jared had another idea. Remember Tanya? He asked one night, leaning back from the glow of the laptop screen. Tanya from our econ class? Last I heard, she was working as a paralegal at a small firm downtown. I remembered her. She was intelligent, quiet, and incredibly astute. We weren't close friends, but we'd been in a study group together. It was a long shot, but it was better than nothing. I found her on LinkedIn and sent her a message, explaining the situation and asking if she could offer any advice.
Not my
Surprise, she responded within an hour. She agreed to meet us for coffee. Tanya wasn't a high-powered partner. She was young, hungry, and she hated bullies. When we laid out the whole story for her, the slap, the arrest, the complaint letter, to my job, the smear campaign, her eyes hardened. What they're doing? It's a classic harassment and defamation tactic, she said, her voice crisp and professional. It's designed to inflict maximum emotional and professional distress to force you to drop the primary assault charge. They probably think you'll run out of money or energy before they do. She agreed to help us for a fraction of the normal cost, working on our case after her normal hours. Think of it as a passion project, she'd said with a small, grim smile. With Tanya guiding us, our efforts became more focused. The goal was to build an irrefutable mountain of evidence. We documented everything, every social media post, every text from a confused relative. We got sworn affidavits from friends who had received the fake emails. And we started delving into the one subject my family always avoided: money. We spent hours at my bank getting official statements for the wedding fund, showing its origin and the legal transfer on my 21st birthday. Then we did the same for Marcus, with a little help from Uncle Robert, who felt guilty for his initial lack of support and now wanted to help. We managed to piece together a financial timeline. It was incriminating. We found proof of the thousands of dollars my parents had given Marcus. Money that went directly to failed crypto exchanges and payments for an absurdly expensive sports car he couldn't afford. The contrast was striking. My savings account showed years of steady, disciplined deposits. His showed a history of massive cash injections followed by reckless, immediate spending. Then we got our breakthrough. After a week of dead ends, Jared found it. A mistake. Marcus had used a public Wi-Fi network at a coffee shop to send one of the fake emails. But his phone had momentarily connected to his personal cloud account, leaving a digital breadcrumb. It was the link we needed, could now definitively link the email account to one owned by Marcus Parker. Wasn't enough for a criminal conviction, but as Tanya explained, more than sufficient for our objectives. As we were gathering all this, a piece of information I'd stored in the back of my mind suddenly became relevant. I remembered a conversation from months ago, before all this exploded. My father had been boasting at a family dinner about a huge potential client that could transform his struggling consulting business. Richard Parker Consulting had been losing clients for years, and he was pinning all his hopes on securing a massive contract with Northwind Corporation, a Fortune 500 company. They're all about image, about ethics, he'd boasted. They only work with the best, most stable firms.
us.
This deal will re-establish us. A plan began to form in my mind, a risky, audacious plan. Emma, with her marketing savvy, did a thorough investigation into Northwind. Their CEO, a man named Michael Davenport, was a renowned corporate titan, a public advocate for business, ethics, and corporate responsibility. He'd written articles about it, given speeches on it. His entire brand was founded on integrity. Father was trying to destroy my reputation to salvage his own. He was using lies to paint me as unstable. What if I used the truth to show Northwind who their potential partner really was? I discussed it with Emma and Tanya. It was a huge risk. It could be seen as a petty act of revenge and could spectacularly backfire. But Tanya framed it differently. You're not attacking him, she advised. You are protecting yourself. He sent a letter to your employer questioning your stability. You have every right to ensure that your potential business partners have a full and accurate picture of the situation. It's not slander if it's factual. So we put it all together. A calm, professional, and utterly devastating information package. It included a summary of events, the police report from the assault, copies of the smear campaign posts, evidence tracing the fake emails to Marcus, contrasting financial records, and of course, the video of the slap, courtesy of Emma's sister. We didn't send it with an angry letter. Tanya drafted a cool, detached cover letter. It simply stated that, as a professional also operating in the city, I felt it was my ethical duty to provide this information for their situational awareness, to ensure they could make a fully informed decision about their business partnerships. It was corporate judo. I was using my father's own language, his own world, against him. We sent the package via courier to the office of Michael Davenport, CEO of Northwind Corporation. As the delivery confirmation pinged on my phone, I felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. I had just rolled the dice. I had no idea if the CEO would even read it, or if he'd just toss it in the trash as the ramblings of a disgruntled son. All I knew was that the battle was no longer confined to the court of public opinion or hushed office hallways. One had taken the fight straight to the heart of my father's world. I was no longer in the eye of the storm. I was the storm. The weeks after we sent the package to Northwind were the quietest and most nerve-wracking of my life. It felt like holding your breath underwater, waiting to see if you'd surface or if your lungs would burst. We heard nothing. There was no angry phone call from my father, no new attacks from Marcus. The silence was unsettling. We focused on the wedding plans, trying to reclaim some semblance of normalcy, but the question lingered in the air. What was happening behind the scenes? The answer came in the form of a thick, cream-colored envelope. It was an invitation to the Richard Parker Consulting Annual Client Appreciation Gala. It was my father's biggest event of the year, Schmooze Fest, designed to impress clients and project an image of success, even when that success was faltering. Normally, an invitation like that would go straight into the trash, but this one was different. And I weren't invited by my father. The invitation came from one of Horizon Creative's vendors, a printing company that did work for both our firm and my father's. We had a legitimate reason to be there. It's a trap, I said instantly, tossing it on the counter. Or Emma said, picking it up, her eyes gleaming with a strategic light. It's an opportunity. It's the perfect stage. She was right. This wasn't just a party. It was my father's entire world. All his clients and professional contacts gathered in one room. It was the Lion's Den, and we were about to walk right into it. The night of the gala, I felt a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie. Emma came and stood behind me, her hands on my shoulders. "Whatever happens in there, we face it together," she said, her reflection meeting mine. We walk in with our heads held high, and we walk out the same way, no matter what. Took a deep breath. Heads high, no matter what. The ballroom of the downtown hotel was oozing with forced elegance. String quartet played in the corner. Waiters circulated with trays of champagne. I saw my father across the room holding court, his booming, confident laugh not quite reaching his eyes. Thinner than I remembered, the stress lines deeper around his mouth. My mother was at his side, wearing a sparkling dress, her smile brittle. Marcus was there too, looking smug already on his third glass of champagne. For the first hour, we played the part. We networked, spoke with our inviting vendor, and chatted with industry acquaintances. I could feel my father's eyes on me. He hadn't approached us. He was watching, waiting. The air was thick with unspoken tension. Then the main event began. My father took the stage to give his keynote address. He stood at the podium, basking in the applause. He started with the usual corporate platitudes, but then his speech took a personal turn. He began speaking about resilience, about facing unexpected challenges in business as in life. He sometimes faced betrayal from the most unexpected places, he said, his voice taking on a somber tone. You face the jealousy and misunderstanding of a younger generation that doesn't appreciate the sacrifices made for them. He was talking about me. In a room full of his professional peers, he was portraying himself as the wise, wounded patriarch, and me as the ungrateful, villainous son. My fists clenched under the table. I could feel the blood pounding in my ears. He was about to launch into another line about family values when a man at the front table stood, tall, silver-haired, with an air of absolute authority.
I
recognized him instantly from the photos Emma had shown me.
It
Was Michael Davenport, the CEO of Northwind Corporation. The room fell silent. Interrupting the host's speech was a significant breach of etiquette. Davenport's voice was calm, but it cut through the room like a razor. "Richard, forgive me for interrupting," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument, "but your mention of values and betrayal has prompted me to make an announcement." My father's smile froze on his face. He looked utterly bewildered. Davenport continued, his gaze sweeping across the room. "Northwind Corporation prides itself on partnering with firms that demonstrate the highest levels of integrity, both professionally and personally. After a thorough review of some very troubling information that has recently surfaced, we have decided to terminate our prospective partnership discussions with Richard Parker Consulting, effective immediately." A wave of gasps and murmurs rippled through the ballroom. My father looked like he'd been physically struck. His face went white, his mouth agape, no sound emerging. But Davenport wasn't finished. His eyes scanned the room, and then they landed directly on me. "However," he said, his voice booming slightly, "our commitment to finding partners with integrity in this city remains. Which is why I'm pleased to announce that we have just signed a major long-term contract with a young, dynamic firm that has impressed us with their talent and unwavering commitment to professional ethics." He raised his glass. "So, if you would please join me in congratulating Alex Parker and his team at Horizon Creative."
A
The sound in the room was a roar of confusion and shock.
O
Every head turned towards me. It felt like a spotlight had just slammed down on our table. Emma squeezed my hand so hard I thought my bones would shatter. I stood up, my legs feeling unsteady. In that moment, everything clicked into place. This was it, the checkmate. I walked from my table toward the stage, toward my father, who was still standing at the podium, looking utterly broken. His entire empire, his entire facade of power and prestige, had been dismantled in less than 60 seconds.
S
As I passed him, I leaned in close, my voice a low whisper only he could hear. "You taught me that in business, reputation is everything," I said. "I was just applying the lesson." I didn't wait for a response. I walked past him towards Michael Davenport and shook the man's outstretched hand. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. I could feel the weight of my father's world crashing down behind me. The sound was deafening. The gala ended in a chaotic blur of whispers and sideways glances. We didn't stay long. After shaking Mr. Davenport's hand and accepting his public congratulations with a poise I didn't know I possessed, we made a quiet exit. The image of my father's face shone, hollowed out, the mask of the powerful patriarch completely shattered, was burned into my mind. The drive home was silent. We were both processing the sheer magnitude of what had transpired. It wasn't just a victory, it was a public vindication on a scale I had never imagined. My father hadn't just lost a contract. He had lost his reputation, the very currency he valued above all else. In the world he had built, he was now an outcast. When we got back to our apartment, Emma and I just stood in the living room for a moment. Then a laugh escaped my lips. It started small, then grew into a full-blown cathartic roar. Emma joined in, and we stood there laughing until tears streamed down our faces. It was the laughter of relief, of disbelief, of a pressure valve that had finally been released after months of being tightened to the breaking point. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was swift and brutal. News travels quickly in the business community. The story of Richard Parker Consulting's public humiliation at their own gala, coupled with the immediate success of Horizon Creative, became the talk of the town. My father's remaining clients began to pull away, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. 2 months later, our wedding day arrived, and it was everything the engagement party was not. It was perfect. We held it outdoors at a beautiful botanical garden, surrounded by a smaller, more intimate group of people, those who had stood by us through the fire, our true family. There was security, of course. We'd hired a discreet team just in case, but the day was peaceful. There were no outbursts, no dramatic confrontations. Marcus and my parents were nowhere to be seen. It was as if a toxic cloud had finally lifted, allowing the sun to shine through. During the reception, my Uncle Robert, who I hadn't spoken too much since the engagement party, came up to me. His eyes were full of a sad, quiet respect. He pulled me into a hug. "I was wrong, Alex," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I was so focused on keeping the family from fracturing, I didn't see that it was already broken. You did the right thing. You stood up for yourself. I'm proud of you, son," hearing those words from him, from the man who represented. The traditional values I had been forced to defy felt like a final piece of healing clicking into place. The speeches from Jared and Dr. Chen weren't just the standard wedding toasts. They were tributes to resilience, to integrity, to the power of building a life based on mutual respect. The whole day felt less like a wedding and more like a celebration of survival and triumph. A few weeks after our honeymoon, Emma and I closed on our first apartment. It wasn't a mansion. It was a charming 2-bedroom place in a quiet neighborhood. With large windows that welcomed the morning light, $60,000 the money that had been the catalyst. For this entire conflict went towards the down payment. The first night we spent there, surrounded by moving boxes, we ordered pizza and ate it on the floor. I held the new keys in my hand, feeling the cool weight of the metal. This was real. This was ours. We had built this, not with inherited money or handouts, but with our own hard work and with the courage to fight for what was right. The money was just a symbol. The real prize was this: the freedom to turn our own key in our own lock, to build a sanctuary safe from the toxicity of the past. The final confirmation of my father's downfall came not with a bang, but with a quiet email. Jared forwarded me a link to a local business journal's website. The headline was short and to the point: Richard Parker Consulting Files for Chapter 11 Bankruptcy Protection. I read the article. It was all there in cold, sterile business language. Mounting debts, loss of key clients, inability to secure new funding. There was no mention of the family drama, of course, but I knew the truth. I knew the real reason for every single one of those words. I didn't feel a surge of triumph or joy. I just felt quiet. It was over. The war was truly finally over. A year can change everything. 12 months after the bankruptcy notice, the world looked completely different. The Northwind contract had been a rocket engine for Horizon Creative and for my own career. Emma and I capitalized on the momentum and ran with it. We pooled our savings, took out a small business loan, and left Horizon to launch our own agency, Parker Chin Design. It was a risk, but it felt like the most natural progression. We were a team in life, and we became a powerhouse team in business. She was the strategic mind, the brilliant marketer who could charm any client. I was the creative engine, translating her strategies into powerful visual campaigns. We worked long hours, fueled by coffee and a shared dream, and it worked. Our small agency began to grow, to thrive. We were building something entirely ours. It's the best part of that year, though, had nothing to do with business. 8 months after our wedding, our daughter Lily was born. Holding her for the first time, this tiny, perfect human being recalibrated my entire universe. All the anger, all the bitterness I had held towards my father, it all seemed to fade. It didn't disappear, but it lost its grip. It was replaced by an overwhelming, fierce need to protect this new life, to give her the love and security. Never had. I hadn't heard from my parents or my brothers since the gala. It was a clean break. I sent them a formal birth announcement, more out of a lingering sense of duty than anything else. But I didn't expect a reply, and I didn't receive. Their silence was a gift. Then one rainy Tuesday afternoon, there was a knock on the door of our small office. I opened it, and my breath caught in my throat. It was my mother. I hadn't seen her in over a year. She looked diminished. Expensive clothes hung loosely on her frail frame. The proud, defiant look in her eyes replaced by a deep, weary sadness. The lines on her face told a story of stress and defeat. "Anna," I said, feeling strange using her first name. "Mom, no longer fit. Alex, can I "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked into our bright, modern office space, looking around at the storyboards on the walls, at the awards we'd started to win, as if she'd walked into a foreign country. We sat in our small meeting area. She wouldn't meet my eye for a long time. She just twisted the strap of her old worn handbag. "I suppose you're wondering why I'm here," she finally said. "The thought had crossed my mind," I replied, my tone neutral. I was building a wall around myself, brick by brick. I wouldn't let her find a crack. She took a shaky breath. I thought she was going to apologize, thought this was the moment of remorse, the confession I had once craved. I was wrong again. "We're in trouble, Alex," she said, her voice cracking. "Your father hasn't been the same. He doesn't leave the house much. The bankruptcy broke him. We're going to lose the house. The foreclosure notice came last week." She finally looked at me, her eyes swimming with desperate tears. "We have nowhere to go. I'm here to ask, to beg, really. We need your help. We need money." I stared at her. After everything, the public humiliation, the lies, the attack on my career, the complete lack of remorse, she was here for a handout. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of it almost made me laugh. But looking at her, at the hollowed-out shell of the woman she used to be, all I felt was a profound sense of pity. This was the moment of my final test. The old Alex, the one who craved his parents' approval, might have given in. He might have seen this as a chance to finally be the hero, the savior. But I wasn't that person anymore. I stood up and walked over to my desk. I took out a pen and wrote 2 things on a piece of paper. I walked back and slid it across the table to her. She looked down at it, confused. "I won't give you money," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "Giving you money would just be putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. You don't have a money problem? You have a problem of pride, of accountability. The first name on that list is a financial advisor. The best? He helps people in your situation restructure their lives. The second name is a family therapist, a very good one." I leaned forward slightly. "I won't let you and Dad end up on the street. I will pay for the first 5 sessions with both of them. That is the help I am offering. It's the only help that will actually change anything. The rest is up to you." She stared at the piece of paper, then up at me, her eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and a flicker of something else, perhaps, for the first time, a sliver of understanding. She had come here looking for a check. I had given her a lifeline, but it was one she had to be willing to grasp for herself. She took the paper, folded it with trembling hands, and placed it in her purse. She stood up, mumbled a thank you, and walked out of my office and out of my life without another word. I didn't know if she would ever use those numbers, but it didn't matter. I had done the right thing on my own terms. I had offered a path to rebuilding, not just a patch for the ruins. I had finally drawn a boundary, not of anger, but of health. And in doing so, I felt truly, completely free. It's been a few years. Since that last meeting with my mother, our agency, Parker Chin Design, has become one of the most respected creative firms in the city. Life is good. It's busy. It's chaotic. But it's a life that Emma and I built together on our own terms. From the ground up, Lily is for now a whirlwind of laughter and endless questions. Sometimes when I'm watching her play in the backyard of the house we finally bought last year, my mind drifts back to that night at the Silver Oak. It feels like a scene from someone else's life. The anger and the hurt have faded, polished, down by time into a smooth, hard lesson that I carry with me every day. I learned that the $60,000 was never really about the money. It was about control. It was about respect. It was the price tag on my own self-worth, and I decided, finally, that I was not for sale. I learned that family isn't just about the blood you share. It's about the people who show up for you, the ones who stand beside you when you're down, who celebrate your victories as if they were their own, who respect your boundaries, and who love you for who you are, not for who they want you to be. My family is Emma, Lily, Jared, the Chins. They are the architecture of my life. My father and I have never spoken again. I heard through the grapevine that he and my mother sold the large house and moved into a small condo across town. I don't know if they ever used the numbers I gave them. I hope they did. I hope they found some semblance of peace. But their journey is their own. I can't walk it for them. Marcus sends an angry, rambling email every year or so, usually around the holidays, blaming me for his problems. I delete them without reading. He is a ghost from a past I no longer inhabit. The most important lesson, the one I want to teach my daughter, simple. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. It isn't cruel. It's an act of survival. It's how you teach the world how to treat you. It's how you build a life of peace, not a life of quiet desperation. Your boundaries are what protect the garden of your own happiness. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and even for others, is to build a strong fence. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it resonated with you in some way. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to draw a hard line in the sand, even with people you loved? Let me know in the comments below. I read every one. And if you'd like to hear more stories, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It really does help.